Hello, Dreamcatchers, and welcome to the Writer's Haven. I'm your host, Helena, and today, as part of our Black History series of films, we are showcasing the documentary Bates Center of Excellence. Back in Season 2, Dr. Patsy Blackshear, president of the Alex Haley Kunta Kinte Foundation, discussed the film with me and its historical significance. Produced by the Alex Haley Kunta Kinte Foundation, the documentary is based on the recounting of memories from interviews of 15 former teachers of Bates High School. It tells the story from the perspective of educators who had firsthand experience in teaching during the integration of public schools in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I hope you enjoy part 1 of this 2-part series.
Hello, my name is Carl H. Henson Jr. I am a native Annapolitan and I went to the mighty Bates High School. I invite you to join me as I share an informative story about Bates and the staff that made it a center of excellence. So together, let's go back many decades to fully understand this wonderful story. What you're seeing now is an image of the original Bates High School from years past. As well, you can see the current Wiley H. Bates Heritage Park. The Heritage Park is located on the original site of the historic Wiley H. Bates High School right here in Annapolis, Maryland. The building was redeveloped into senior housing, a senior center, a boys and girls club, and a museum dedicated to the Annapolis merchant and civic leader Wiley H. Bates, the museum known as the Bates Legacy Center. Now, secondary education was not provided to African Americans in Anne Arundel County until 1917, when a high school was established for black students in Annapolis. This secondary program was housed in the existing Stanton Elementary School building. However, by 1930, the enrollment was rapidly outgrowing the available space. The Stanton Parent-Teacher Association, Wiley H. Bates, and others interested in Annapolis citizens approached the County Board of Education on this particular matter. Their efforts eventually led to the establishment of Wiley H. Bates High School. Built in 1932, Bates replaced the previous secondary school for coloreds in Annapolis, Maryland, and operated as the only high school for African Americans in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Bates continued operations as a high school until the integration of schools in Anne Arundel County in the mid-1960s. The school opened in January 1933 with Mr. Frank B. Butler as principal and just 7 faculty members. When the school opened, no transportation was provided. The first students lived mostly in the Annapolis Eastport parole area. If others wished to attend, they had to provide their own transportation. Finally, my friends, transportation was first provided in 1937, and within 10 years after Bates opened, the enrollment had grown to 910 and the faculty to 33. The school offered academic, general, and vocational arts. With the building of Bates High School and provision of transportation for students, African American students who lived as far north as Brooklyn Park and as far south as Friendship went to Bates. And all African American students in the city of Annapolis who attended Bates High School went to Bates before the integration of public schools in the county. In addition, my mother, Mrs. Betty Henson, taught social studies at Bates. So there are many African American families native to Anne Arundel County with multiple generations of Bates attendees and graduates. Like me, these families and individuals have a very special connection to Bates. The significance of Bates could be told by focusing on the determination and efforts of Wiley H. Bates, who provided the original funding of $500 to purchase land for the school. It could also be shared by remembering the contributions of the many African American carpenters, bricklayers, other tradesmen and families who contribute the funds, the materials, and the labor to build this very unique school. But instead, I will focus on the significance of this school by sharing the story of just a few of those teachers who were the core of efforts to ensure the quality education for nearly a half a century of educational excellence. These teachers made Bates High School a center of excellence. Wiley Bates High School holds a very special place in the hearts of African Americans in Anne Arundel County. Before we are finished, you'll understand why.
My name is Donald Kess.
My name is Nancy Wood Giss.
My name is Joyce Pikett. The name is French Picot McManus.
Okay, John A. Maple Jr. taught at Bates from 1956 to 1966.
I am Laura Plummer Webb Marshall, and better known as Laura Webb.
My name is Betty Lee Jenkins Colbert.
I am Coretta Smith Wingo.
My name is Bernice Johnson Tillett. I was Bernice Johnson when I taught at Bates High School.
I am Clementine Fisher Johnson.
My name is Ann Hudson Jenkins.
My name is Burma Smith Hill.
My name is Ann Goodwin Ventes.
Shirley Toy.
I'm Doris Knight.
My name is Robert M. Brooks.
I grew up in what is called Parole there. Parole was annexed by Annapolis, city of Annapolis, a fair number of years ago.
So that means you went to school.
I went to school at Bates, graduate of Bates.
And then turned around and you taught.
Came back and student taught at Bates there.
Interesting.
For me personally, I had parents that pushed me.
Okay.
There. My mother was an educator.
All right.
So that's what I always say that, you've heard of Rosenwald School, haven't you?
Yes, yes.
My mother taught down in Galesville
yes.
at a Rosenwald School.
I know where that's
If there hadn't been a Rosenwald School, I may not be here today.
But the reason we came here, because I liked the area where I work, it was during the period of integration.
All right.
And South Carolina was a state that did not want to accept it. So they started the idea that if you want to go into integration or you approved of integration, you're going to sign an affidavit. And that was to say that you're not going to become a member of NAACP.
Oh, you had to sign?
Oh, yeah. They had that going on. And so if you want to work, I'll make it more clear. If you want to work a state job in the state of South Carolina, you could not be a member of NAACP.
Okay.
I came here with I think a good background in music. I taught at Elizabeth City State Teachers College, and I did some work with South Carolina State, as it was then. I don't know what it is now. And then I taught school in the city of Gibraltar, South Carolina.
I taught from 1946 to 1952, 6 years. 4 years I had taught. We commuted every day.
Commuted from?
From Washington, D.C. There were about 4 or 5 of us who commuted. The first time we commuted, for the first 2 years, we went in a car with Mr. Baxter, who was a shop teacher. And he would pick us up at certain places, and we were all riding his car, his Hudson. If anybody's old enough to know what a Hudson is.
Okay.
So we rode in his comfortable car to Bates, got out of the car right in front of Bates High School. Afterwards, when the war wasn't so bad, and there was gasoline, and there were cars that needed tires could get them, then he began to use his car. And so we rode then. And in the meantime, when the war was going on and we were bad and didn't have anything, we rode on the Greyhound bus.
But I guess it was a spirit of, let me just come back to Bates. I guess it was a spirit of what you saw as an amalgamation of the spirit of those who are here. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you could point, we didn't know everything they did, but they were such excellent models for us. I mean, they were models for us that you couldn't see a blemish, you know. Maybe there were blemishes there, but we didn't see the blemish there. And there were no disciplinary problems, you know. Kids were not being suspended, and they supported and empowered us rather than demonizing us or calling us ugly names, or because I've seen teachers call children, students ugly names.
Diminishing them.
Diminishing them, and annihilating them, really. But I never saw that here. They related to the students in a sense of empowering us. I just want to keep that. and that each student was important.
The teachers at Bates included former students who came back home after college, as well as teachers who migrated to this wonderful Annapolis area. Now, some were married couples like the McManuses, the Paces, and the Knights. In addition, the range of experiences shared by these wonderful teachers included new college graduates, seasoned teachers from other teaching assignments, and even some with previous military experience. The teachers at Bates were all college graduates, and even some had master's degrees. This level of training boded well for ensuring quality education for the Bates students, and it is, I should indicate, a testimony to the qualification of this highly educated teaching staff. As Bates grew in enrollment, this institution was particularly positioned to make a difference for its students. The school staff included a mix of highly trained professionals in a wide range of subject area, an extremely caring collegial work and environment, enhanced by supportive and active parental and community involvement. Hence, with this combination of these positive factors, the faculty at Bates could be described as operating in a center of educational excellence. The Bates staff and network was like one big extended family. The principals who provided leadership to Bates High School had a rigorous vetting process, which often included auditions. Mr. Butler, Mr. King, and Mr. Hilliard, I remember them all, as well as the vice principals, ensured strong administrative leadership, along with Mrs. Wiseman, who was an administrative leader for the lower grades. Now, friends, these leaders were looking for the best of the best. Prior to school integration, teaching jobs for African American teachers were sort of limited to schools for African American students. Hence, they had fewer job opportunities. Therefore, these teachers encountered many job challenges, thereby increasing the possibility for the Bates principals to select and acquire the best for their students. So what was it like being a teacher at Bates, and how did the various elements work together for the students? Let's find out from some of the teachers.
So what did you teach? What subject?
When I started, I was teaching core.
Okay.
And when I left Bates, I was teaching special ed.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you, the way it was with special ed, they didn't have the reading materials and things for kids that age.
Okay.
Most of anything that came to us were like elementary level, and that wasn't high interest enough. So we made our own stories.
Okay.
We would take, like I would take the kids on a field trip up to the grocery store.
Okay.
And we talk about it after we get back, and then we write our stories, and I would write them on charts in the classroom. And you know, it's like a book. You end up having like a book.
Okay.
And I would often, I'll get grocery store ads.
Okay.
And we would make our grocery list. And they would learn, you know, different vegetables and fruits and things.
Okay.
And had them to list, if they were going to the store, and I would take them. There was a store up on West Street. I don't know whether it was a Safeway or what. But we'd go in there with them and show them the different things. And then they make their grocery list, and then we'd add the prices. So you teach your writing skills, and they learn the math, all in, you know. We did that. I mean, that was a constant thing.
And when I first went there, they had me, it was during the war, and they had put a course in called Aeronautical Science. And the principal assigned me to teach aeronautical science.
And coming back was really an honor. It really was, because I got to teach with those who had taught me, and I had taken, hopefully had taken on some of their characteristics and you know, motivation, wanting to be a teacher. And so I was basically working with living legacies.
Oh, that's Yes. And my husband, James, he would always, I mean, he had a very outstanding football team, and he had that because he would drive the children anywhere they had to go after practice. He'd put them in his car because, you know, most kids didn't have cars at that time. And the parents sometimes couldn't pick them up, so he would have to take them home. One, when James died, I got a call from one of my students, Joanne Steed. She grew up right down the street from the school off of Spar Road. And she called me, and she was calling to express her sympathy that James had passed. And she went and asked me a question. She said to me, Miss Webb, do you remember that time they were fighting to be the #1 team in Anne Arundel County? That time that you benched the whole first team? And I said, did I do that? She said, oh, yes, you did. We could not play. You played the second team the whole game. And I said, well, why would I do something like that? She said, because we said we weren't coming to practice. And they made the decision not to come to practice. And I made the decision, win or lose, this is what today is like. And she said, you know, that was the best teaching I've ever gotten, because, you know, she was superior, and we just thought that no one would do that. But I did. And to hear her ask me that question, I'd forgotten all about it, you know. At that time, I was angry with them, and I had to show them who was in charge.
Well, we didn't have a program that I recall for special ed, but we had levels, you know, and you know, the lowest level children, you would just have to adjust your the structure of your teaching. And like I said, I took many a child, stayed after school many a day, and took lots of children home with me, because I live right in Annapolis. And you know, worked with them and gave parents ideas about how to increase their learning. So just a little more effort with the
extra effort
with the lower levels.
I had an advantage of that. And then when I taught at Bates, I exposed my students to coming over here. We had a tour of Washington D.C. a couple of times. And they paid their money, and I got a bus, and we rode from Bates over to Washington. And listen, in those days, kids didn't wear sneakers and dress like as they dress now. I said, you have to dress up. You do, Miss Johnson? I said, yes. You have to wear proper shoes, wear a jacket, and the boys, you know, the sweaters, and they look very, and I said, but bring your own lunch, because there were not many places that were going to be able to, where they were going to be able to eat. And they got so, the kids, I forgot the name they had, because they knew I wasn't taking any foolishness. And then too, I wasn't that much older than some of them. It was after the war, and after the war, I had a couple of students who had come back from being in the Army or Navy to go back to school to get their high school diploma. So they're almost as old as I was, because I was about 21, 22. And I remember having this fella, he was so serious, but he wanted his diploma from high school.
That's wonderful.
There was some who tried me. I could think of one guy's name in particular, but I won't call it. I never forget him.
Maybe you'll see him sometime.
Oh, yeah, but
he
he couldn't get over on me, but he can, you know, he was a good basketball player, and the teacher who was a history teacher there encouraged him. He told me later, you kept him from going to college. I said, I didn't keep him, his grades kept him, you know. But he was something else. And he was trying to come in class late. And I said, nobody comes to my class late. And I also told him, you come to school prepared the way you will do for your job. Your preparation will be your notebook, your pencil, and your pen. This fellow would try me. And when I had a test, they had to have a test all that particular period. He came unprepared. He didn't have his pen, he didn't have a pencil. And I also told him all the time, you do not lend your tools to anyone else. You're going, this is your job, you have to come prepared. So then there he was trying to, and the kids were nervous. They would like to have lent him a pen or a pencil, but they knew better, so he was running up and down the hall, finding a pencil and pen to come back. And by that time, the test was half over. Oh, he was something else. But he was always trying to get over on me. And I wasn't going to let him, because at that point, I'm like 22, 23 years old, 22 years old. No.
Okay. And we would talk a lot back and forth in class, as I talk a lot now. And I told you Harry and I stammer.
Yes.
But people who stammer and stutter sometimes get hung up on a word or a syllable or a sound, and we can't get off of it. It's difficult. I had speech lessons when I was in Baltimore City.
Okay.
Harry was responding. Harry's Curtis Bradford, and he stammered, and he got hung up on this one letter, and he could not get off of it. I mean, it was just there. It went on. He was like that. What's that? Die-hard rabbit.
Yes, just keep going on.
But see, we already knew that you don't laugh at people because see, we had that from Miss Marshall back then.
Yes.
But it didn't matter. It was too much. Leo, who I told you was a great speaker, he started. He burst out, and everybody was holding it in, and I didn't. We all just laughed, and Mrs. Tate let us laugh it all out. Because it really was, it had gotten to the point that it was humorous. And it was even humorous for Curtis, because we loved each other. We didn't laugh at, we laughed with. And when we got finished, Mrs. Tate told us, as long, well, whatever else she said, don't you ever, I mean, she had the presence of mind I respected so much. She did not stop us mid-laughter, because there was no need to. She let it die itself out, and then brought it back at the time when we would be most receptive to her explanation as to why we don't do. Now, I didn't laugh. I sat right beside her seat. Not because I was wonderful, I was fearful. I was right beside her seat.
I understand.
And I identified with him. I knew what he was doing. I had done it and was going to do it in the next few minutes anyway. But I remember that experience with her. It was marvelous. We laughed straight. She did not stop us. She did not reprimand us. She just explained that this is how you do it and don't do. And it was clear that Leo wasn't laughing at him. He just laughed. It was everybody. It was beautiful.
Such a learning experience.
And Harry was happy. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful, positive experience.
Well, my teaching experience at Bates was, well, it was quite an experience of having to create everything that you gave your kids. We didn't have books issued to us as such. The books that we had came from out of the county or from the white schools that were used. I looked at one of the copyright dates, 1938. We had to be very creative. We had to search for everything that we wanted to try to teach the kids everything that they needed, which meant that you had to do a lot of writing on the boards. So we developed a very close relationship, highly respected as teachers. In fact, they just looked up to us. We were the surrogate parents, you know, of their children. And it was a wonderful experience. Now, when I came here, so strange when I look back maybe 60 plus years ago, when we came to school, we wore heels, we dressed in our suits, we had our purses and our gloves. Every teacher.
You wore gloves?
When we entered the building, we had on, that's what we had on, gloves.
No hats?
No hats. But gloves and heels, and taught in those heels all day long.
Well, when I got to the 11th grade, and in the English class was a lady by the name of Mrs. Pace. And she was another one, and it seemed like her and Miss Allen were sort of like sisters in the way as how they presented their classrooms. And I can still remember, and when I do reports now, have to write a letter, I can always remember the fundamentals that I would have to go through with Miss Pace. And if you had to do some type of composition or what have you, she wanted to make sure that you had the title right, it was spelled right. She would call you up, she would check it, then you would move on to doing the outline and how you had to present the outline and what have you, and then you would have to start doing the actually putting the material together. And then after that, you would have to present it to the class. You had to get up in front of the class and speak. And I always remember this, and here it is, 60 years later, I still remember her words to me that, oh, you speak like a Philadelphia lawyer. And I didn't know what a Philadelphia lawyer was, but later on I found out what a Philadelphia lawyer was, how they spoke and what have you.
So that was a compliment.
Yeah, it was. And she was another one was very meticulous in how you did things and what have you. And I still remember, and when I do reports now, I still go back to that basics of in the 10th and 11th grade of how she wanted things done.
I'm still hearing you say high standards, high expectations.
Yes.
And very
and she was very inspiring to you and what have you, and especially the term that I use, Philadelphia lawyer. And always remember when you did your outline, you had to have, if you have a Roman numeral 1, you had to have a Roman numeral 2. If you had an A, you had to have a B. And I still, 60 years later, I still remember that. And she was very, very good in my life. And as you can see, 60 years later, I'm still echoing some of the things that she had taught me in her class.
That's wonderful.
I don't think you can measure it in one sentence, and you cannot measure it in dollars and cents. But I think that if I could look at it in terms of its roots spreading, and I think the roots are still spreading, because I think those who've had other families have also, some of that have gone down through generations, and they may not have known the teachers at Bates. They may not have attended Bates, but they have been influenced in a positive way because of Bates High School.
I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this 2-part series. As the teachers explained in their interviews, Bates was the hub for the African American community at that time, and they took great pride in their students and what they had to offer. I hope you'll join me next week for the rest of the story. For more information about the series, you can visit our website at www.writershavenshow.com. Until next time, catch fire on purpose.
Oh yeah, yes! So much fun! Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.